All right, so today I'm going to split you guys up in groups of 4, and we're going to start grading those free response questions. We're going to grade these kind of like they do at the actual test, except it's all teachers and professors. They put them in groups of about 10 to 12 people, and that table grades every single group's question number 1. Then there's another table that grades all questions number 2, and so forth. We're going to grade all of them together, and the reason we're going to do this is it's going to help you to see how these things are graded and see what you're leaving off and what you need to add on to in order to get your points. And you're going to have some questions as you go. So at these table sessions, there's a table leader. So if you're not sure how to grade something, you're going to ask the people in your group what they think. And if you can't come to a consensus, you're going to give me. I'm going to be your table leader. Okay, and then there's a chief grader who's in charge of everything. So if everybody can't agree by that time, they get the chief grader to come over and say, this is what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm the chief grader. Now, I got up here on the screen, this is normally what the rubrics look like. So like they've got n of 2 equals 2, or maybe it says h prime of 2 equals 2/3. You get 1 point for that for having an answer right. Now, even though they got 2/3 here, if they wrote 0.667, that would be a point. Okay, they might have the h prime problem worked out where they did the derivative. Okay, they did the derivative, they plugged the 2 in, they went down and got 2/3. That's fine. Maybe they plugged in the 2 and it was like 2 squared over 3 plus whatever minus this, and they plugged it all in and didn't simplify it to 2/3. That's okay. You don't have to simplify in here. We understand? So they do not have to have it looking exactly like these. These are what the normal rubrics look like. Well, the rubric I passed out to you today, and I'm going to get it back from you, this thing that I gave to you while you were working on that 5 for 5 thing. This is a rubric that was put together by a chief grader, the guy in charge of the whole thing. So when you open this up, this right here is what your question number 1 looks like. All right, there's question number 1, and then you come down here. If you look, it's going to be worth 2 points right here. So part A is worth 2 points. And they're showing you right here what would be a way to get 1 point. Now again, I want to make sure you when you read this part on the back here in a second, I'm going to flip it over. I guess I will right now. It says right here, to earn the first point, the response must provide both a difference and a quotient. Difference means that you got a minus in the problem, and quotient means it's a fraction. And it must explicitly use values of f from the table. So what that means is, if they just wrote right here, if they just put the 10 minus 6 on the top, and the 2.5 minus 2 and quit, that's enough. That is a difference on the top, a difference on the bottom, and the quotient. You don't have to write it like this, you don't have to write it like this, you don't have to simplify to 8. So if yours says 10 minus 6 over 2.5 minus 2, and they stop, they get the whole point. Now if they simplify, let's say they simplify and don't get 8. Let's say they simplify and get 6 because they made a math mistake. Even if they had the quotient right, but they got the wrong answer, that wrong answer loses that point. That's why I talked to you all year about you don't have to simplify, and some of you made mistakes doing that. Okay, when you look at this one, they're supposed to interpret this with units. So one of the things they have to do is they have to say that there is 2.25 centimeters. They've got to have that in their writing. Hopefully they do say it, a distance of 2.25 centimeters from the center of the Petri dish would be great. And then they should say something about the density. I hope they put in of the bacteria population, but maybe not. But if they said the density is increasing, okay, that's a key word, increasing, at a rate of 8 milligrams. They've got to have the milligrams per square centimeter okay, or centimeters squared, and then they've got to have another per centimeter. Okay, now what that could look like is they could say 8 milligrams, and they could say per centimeter squared per centimeter. They could write it like that. Or they could say 8 milligrams per centimeter cubed would be the same answer. If you take this and put it over 1 and flip it upside down, centimeter squared times centimeter is centimeter cubed. But they've got to have both of these. Now, if they leave any one of those things off, they don't get the point. These are really hard to get the point, because you got to include the numbers with the measurements on all the parts, and you got to have that it's increasing or decreasing. Remember that little slab of paper I gave you, and I changed the wording on it? That's how you fill in the blanks for these. So that's why I did that, so you know everything you have to put in there. And then you turn this over and it talks about all different ways. This is what they actually do at the thing. They have all these things that they go through. They spend the whole first day and a half just going through how they're going to grade it. They don't even start grading. And then they spend the next 7 to 10 days grading them. Okay? And there's something like 8,000 teachers and professors at this thing. So the reason we're doing this is you're going to learn what you need. At least I'm hoping. The goal here is for you to learn what you need to include to get your points, and how you're going to mess up little things that are going to cost you points. Something else I want to talk about is when you have an integration like we had on one of the problems the other day. I can't remember. There was numbers here and here, and then there was some function. Okay, well, if you write an integral like this and you leave off the dx, and you've got to have, now one of the things they'll say is the integration with the correct interval. That means you got to have the right numbers here and here. If you have the wrong numbers here and here, you don't get that point. If you leave off the dx, they have never counted off a point for leaving off the dx. They say we will assume that they will read, which means grade. They will grade it as though you put the dx at the end. Okay. Now, one of the keys this year they said is notation, and this is notation. So they may take a point off this year if you forget that dx. I don't know. But if you write it like this in the past without that dx, they gave you the point anyway. But if you write it like this, and you put that 2,500 over here, you lose the point, because they're putting this as being the integral and this is the dx, and you shouldn't be doing the integral of the 2,500. So you're going to come into some problems like that. And again, you're going to talk about it in your group. Okay, you're going to talk about it. And if you can't come to a consensus, you're going to raise your hand. I'm going to come over and help you out. I'm going to walk around in the first few anyway. Now, I want the same paper graded twice by 2 different people. So you're going to grade your problem first, and you're going to pass it to your right when you're done. And then the next person is going to grade with you. And if you come up with a disagreement and you guys can't come to a consensus, you're going to get me, and I'm going to make the final call. Do we understand that? Now, I'm going to put you in groups of 3s and 4s, mainly 4s today. And you're going to do this, and we got people not here. We're going to grade their stuff too, even though they're not here. Does anybody have a question? What's going on? So again, at the end of the period, with about 5 minutes to go, we're going to take this thing and pass it up, because I only made enough for a classroom set. You're not taking these with you. You are not allowed to ever take out the multiple choice questions out of here, because we could all not be able to get our scores counted, because these are released to use in classrooms, but you're not to take them out of the classroom. We've already talked about that. And then at the end of the period, we're going to take all the desks and put them back right like they are right now. You're going to go to your row, and you're going to pass all your packet up to the front of that row, and then I'm going to collect them from you. That way, when I pass them back out on Monday, it won't take me forever like it did before school today. And I can just go each row and give everybody's out, and you pass them back like normal. We all clear on that? Anybody got any questions? Okay, I got to shut off this recording.